Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I'm going to do something weird. I kind of want to do this like a classroom setting. I've had this concept in my mind and I haven't really known how to explain it and illustrate it, but I'm going to try today here. So what you have in front of me is a list of things that happen in the game. And I get often asked, like, how do I improve? How do I rank up? And I think that this is the basis of where I think everyone should start. Everyone needs to have this information. Everybody needs to understand this concept that I'm about to talk about. So what I've built here is what I'm calling a priority list of events. So these things are different events that happen in the game, and there are more events that I have listed here. And what happens with this list is that things shift around and they change. And what you need to understand is you need to have to be a better player. You need to have all this knowledge baseline. You need to know all of this without even going into a match and thinking about it, and be prepared to use that knowledge. And then you need to be versatile with this knowledge. So let's talk about it. So at the very beginning of the game, when you first spawn and you're running down one of your lanes, or you're running toward your center lane, depending on what role you're playing, you have your neutral farm. I put neutral here because this means Lillipup, Ludicolo, Bouffalant, or the other winter-themed stuff. I'm just sticking with the normal terms for now. But as a laner, you need to get your farm, your APOMs, and you need to go straight for your neutral Corphish or your neutral Audino. That is the number one priority thing you do as a laner in this game. Number one thing, nothing else matters. You need to go for that neutral, because that neutral farm is a mid-map objective, or a mid-map farm that is only able to be secured by one team. You want that experience over your enemies. So this is like priority number one at the top of the list, right? Boom. That's the beginning of the game, right? Boom. Top of the list. But what happens when that farm is secured or lost? Well, in my mind, this is the way that this is the concept of how it works for me. In my mind, boom, that's gone. This falls all the way to the bottom of the list. Sorry, I'm working in Photoshop, so it's going to be a little weird. It falls all the way to the bottom of the list, right? Okay, so what's next? Well, 850Bs, next mid-map objective. So I could have thrown like the 9-minute Corphish on here, but I'm thinking about the big things, the things you have to do. So now everything on this list shifts, right? Everything. Because move the bees text, but everything shifts, and you have to be thinking about what to do when it shifts and what to play next. So now you've gotten that mid-neutral Corphish. If you're a jungler, you're still doing your rotation, but you're making your way, and the list has shifted in your mind. You know this information, the list has shifted. So now everyone in the game, including the jungler, should be thinking 850Bs. So now the junglers should be in lane, one of the lanes for 850Bs. The laners should not only be in the lane, but they should be prepared, meaning you shouldn't be pushing, you shouldn't be taking a bunch of damage right before the bees spawn. You want to be full health, you want to have your cooldowns off cooldown, and you want to be ready for the bees, right? Okay, cool. So the bees are taken. Same thing. This is going to fall all the way to the bottom of the list. Now I need to start moving the whole thing up. And this is the concept of having a priority list in your mind. This is the concept of understanding the game at a deep level and knowing what the game has to offer in terms of earning value, and knowing how to secure these objectives and how to use this information to actually get you a win. So as you can see, I'm not going to do this for every single one. You get the concept. 720Bs is the next thing. Then you have 7-minute Dreadnought and Rotom. This is where things start introducing what I like to call variable change. As the game continues forward, this list is not a constant flowing list. Things are going to move a lot. And I do all this in my mind, and that's why it's a hard concept to talk about, because I wanted to illustrate it. But, if the Rotom gets killed first, well, that's a variable change, because now, most people will go for Dreadnought first, then Rotom spawns out, like it gets eliminated after, and then the timers are in the right place, and then, for the second Dread and Rotom, maybe you need to go top lane first. Like, these are the things that you need to be thinking about. So like a rule of thumb, I think when it comes to like Dreadnought and Rotom is like when the timer is up, you need to make a decision about which one you're going to. The variable change is which one spawns first, how many teammates do you have alive, where are your teammates positioned, should you be going top if your whole team is bottom? Probably not. These are the variable changes that you have to think about. Now, there's one on this list that I really want to talk about because I think it's important. There is this mid-game lull. I call it that all the time. There's a mid-game lull. After the first Dreadnought and Rotom, like after the first Rotom really, because that's when everybody like rotates top and whatever. After Dreadnought and Rotom are eliminated, you have this weird mid-section where like there's not really anything to do. You can just farm. That's really what you're doing. You're farming the Audinos if they've spawned in the back of your lane, if they took it. You're farming the lane minions. But what you're doing is you want to have someone covering an off lane. So you don't want to have, essentially you don't want to leave a goal open. You want to have at least someone off laning. You're in the mid game lull and you're preparing for 550 Bs. So 550 Bs are most of the time going to spawn in the very center of the map again, depending on when the bees were killed, when the first goals were eliminated. But most of the time they're going to spawn in the center of the map. Sometimes they'll be on your side of the lane, sometimes they'll be on their side of the lane, but most of the time it's going to be in the center. So this is a really important one to know right here in the center here, because this one I feel like oftentimes gets incredibly overlooked. And this 550 Bs, like this is a section where people run around and fight and die. This is a section where people accidentally give up a free turn in because they're all 4 or 5 in top lane or in jungle doing nothing, not covering the bot lane. This is where people give up free experience on the 550 Bs because they're not doing their role properly. And this one's a pretty important one. I would say after the first handful of things on this list, like neutral core fish, 850B, 720B, 7-minute dreadnought, and then the mid lull, that's where the variable change really kicks in, and you have to start using your knowledge of the game to make decisions. So a lot of these things even will fall off the list entirely. So like 720Bs, you know, is gone, whatever. Like neutral core fish Audino, like that does come up multiple times, but I'm not going to leave it on this list for now. So like 850B is gone. Like this is mostly off. Neutral core fish Audino, this is like, yeah, it comes up like earlier in the game before the mid lull, but mostly gone. And now you're left with like Dreadnought Rotoms, like third Dreadnought Rotoms, and then you're left with like covering off lane. So the priority list becomes more about the team and what you have to do as a team, and how to position for like third Dreadnought Rotom, position and like cover off lanes, guarantee that the people that are getting farm are the ones that need, like guaranteeing yourself extra farm. So like getting yourself closer to the next set of bees, which is usually like around like 420 bees. And sometimes the timers are really weird. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but the bee timers are weird. So like always thinking about bee timers, looking at, like I said, third Rotom and Dreadnought. Depending on the timer, sometimes there's not a third Rotom or Dreadnought. Sometimes there's only a third Dreadnought or only a third Rotom, of which I think Rotom is incredibly important. And then in general, being positioned early. You always want to do everything early when it comes to positioning for objectives where you think most of the people on your team are going to group up, or where you should be grouped up. So like if you're going to Zapdos or Articuno, you want to be grouped early for that. If you're going to Dreadnought, you want to be there early. You don't want to be getting there as it's spawning, because they may have full positioning to wipe out your teammates, or you may just be leaving your teammates alone too long. So I think that this kind of information is really important. I don't know if this illustration was any good, but I wanted to talk about the importance of understanding what the game has going on and then applying that knowledge through a priority list. So, you know, I could change some of these. Let's do that. Let's change this to, you know, third Dreadnought Rotom. Let's change this to like Zapdos, and let's change this to like, I don't know, maybe late game lull. So like oh, I'm gonna put off lane too. So like Zapdos should be down here. This would be like a normal priority list, right? So you have like off game, late game lull, like there's nothing spawning yet. You're waiting for timers to pop up on the map. So it's like everybody should be farming in this section. You should be, you know, knowing that maybe taking fights here is probably not the best idea. You should be getting the people that need those extra plus levels for their abilities. And then, oh, boom, a timer spawns up right on the map. As soon as the timer spawns up, whoop, this falls all the way down, right? Like this falls all the way down. And now to the top of the list is third Dreadnought Rotom. And well, which one's up first? You know, maybe you have 4 teammates in the top lane and they're on Rotom. Well, you know, maybe you need to consider going there. Well, what about the variable change? How many people does the enemy team have alive? How many points are you behind? Would getting a backdoor score put you in the lead? You know, there's variable change in that. You know, if you got a message at the 3-minute time and it's like, oh, it's close battle. Well, maybe you should stay in the off lane instead of going to Dreadnought Rotom and score an additional 40 points so that way your team's ahead now, you know? So you have to be thinking about the score. You have to think about how many people are alive. You have to think about what objectives coming up. You have to think about what the, you know, just in general, the variable change and the actual action that's happening. Well, the Zapdos spawn timer is coming up. We know that, right? It's coming up. So now, 3rd Dreadnought Rotom is gone. It's completely gone. This late game lull and farming phase, waiting for timers, is gone. And now the only thing to do is Zapdos. It's the only thing to do. It's either Zapdos, or you know what? I'll even throw this in there. You have Zapdos, or you have farming. And what do some people do? What do some people do when Zapdos is spawning? You have them sitting on their side farming, killing the outside Audinos in the jungle, and that's wrong. You have to think about the objectives on the map. You have to think about it. And so you shoot farming down to the bottom of the list. It's the only thing to do other than Zapdos, and you have to be prepared for Zapdos. So hopefully this kind of concept and this kind of way of thinking helps you understand the way that I view the game and the way that I think the game should be played. There is always, and again, this is stuff that happens in your mind instantly. There's always a priority list of things you need to do. Where it's your responsibility as a player to improve is, 1, understanding that list, knowing just what's in the list, even if it's just on paper and you don't know how the list is going to move. Knowing all the objectives in the game, neutral core fish, holding off lane, 850Bs, 720Bs, 550Bs, 420Bs, and knowing, I already said off lanes, like knowing that, you know, 1st Dreadnought Rotom are coming up, knowing that 2nd Dreadnought Rotom are coming up, maybe a 3rd Dreadnought Rotom coming up. Then you start introducing, and Zapdos, knowing that Zapdos is a thing. And farming, I guess. Farming is just like its own thing on the list, kind of. Then you have variable change. How many people are alive here? How many Unite moves do we have? What's the current score positioning? You know, where are my teammates positioned? How much time is left on my Unite move before I get it? How much time is left on my teammate's spawn timer? Should I go in now, or should I wait that extra 5 seconds? So familiarize yourself with the game. Familiarize yourself with everything that happens in a single match of Unite. And then understand and manipulate the priority list inside of your mind by having strong understanding of the variable changes. So there you have it, friends. That's my session today. I think that this is valuable. I hope that this is valuable. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone that you love them. And I'll see you on the next video.